Hey, what's happening? What's happening? This your boy Bobo with Real Raw and Recovered. This is election step 10. And I want to stop for a second and just take the time to acknowledge those who subscribe to the channel, those who have referred to others to the channel. Uh, we're definitely growing. We appreciate it. Our only intent with Real Raw and Recovered is to reach as many people as we can, as real and raw and as recovered as we can put it, right? If we can help some people to a better understanding of the steps, a better relationship with God, find out what their purpose is in this society. Praise God. All power be to God for that. But I wanted to give y'all a special thanks because the channel is growing. Uh, we've hammered out the majority of the details to the nonprofit organization. We've got everything going right now, and I just wanted to give y'all the thanks. So on step 10, last steps we left off on was steps 8 and 9, right? So the trip through the steps from 1 to 9, the whole purpose of the book is to get me in touch with a power greater than myself that would solve my problem. Solving my problem definitely implies when I straighten out spiritually, I straighten out mentally and physically. So when I straighten out spiritually, it means that I've had a conscious awakening, a spiritual awakening. It means that I've at least begun to have a spiritual experience or a psychic change. Uh, if I have been painstaking, if I have been fearless and thorough through the work, uh, at least being willing to believe in a power greater than myself, by the time I get through the ninth step, about halfway through the ninth step, I should begin to experience some things that would confirm to me that I have indeed come to know my creator personally. So we're gonna jump in this, and obviously none of my YouTube videos are for virgin ears. Uh, if you're easily offended, please get off my channel. Go some fucking where else. This ain't for you. This for us who need to hear the truth, the real, the raw way, straight. I like my truth like I like my dope, uncut, and so I deliver it the same way I like it. Just give it to me and let me be a man. Let me man up and reason with it and consider it and uh, find out what my responsibility is to get in line with it. And so let's get right into this. On page 83, after having made it like halfway through my amends list, we've got the promises. Page 83 at the bottom, it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Now it said I'm going to know something about how it feels to be free, and I'm also know something about how it feels to be happy. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. That means I'm going to have some relief from self-pity, shame, guilt, remorse. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. To some degree or another, at least in a degree that's advancing, I should be being set free from being restless, irritable, and discontented, and I should come to know what being serene and at peace looks like. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. Well, obviously, if I haven't worked the steps and got in touch with the power greater than myself, I'm still so selfish as to think that my sobriety is only about me, and I'm not interested in helping anybody else. And so I end up shutting right back down and not reaching out to help others get recovered from this thing. That feeling of uselessness and self pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of economic insecurity, fear of people and of economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. We will suddenly realize that God, not my sponsor, not my group, not my effort, we will finally realize that God is doing for me what I can't do for myself. That's a punchline. That's a punchline. That's a real strong punchline. All these extravagant promises, you know, if you're still an unbeliever, if you still aren't through the work, if you're still trapped in the grips of addiction, hell yeah, them promises extravagant. They too far-fetched. They like way over the hill in the yonders and shit. I can't even entertain the thought. I don't know nothing about none of the shit they just said. But we as a group, we think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. They will always materialize if we work for them. So by the time you make it to this point, through the step work, through the book, you have been fearless and thorough from the very start. So let's recap. I have considered the diagnosis of the real alcoholic and addict by the things that's mentioned in the doctor's opinion by William D. Silkworth. It's a disease of the mind and the body. The man says that my body is allergic, and one of the abnormal reactions to these chemicals is that my body craves it more beyond my mental capacity to control it if I put it in my body. He also says that it's become so much of a solution. The alcoholic life to me is the only normal one. It's become so much a solution to me that I can no longer differentiate the true from the false, and I can no longer be okay and happy without it. And so I am, the moment I make a firm resolution and swear off, I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. This is the ism. This is the spirituality. This is the place where I can get so uncomfortable in my own skin in the now that I begin to entertain the lie that I can control and enjoy it like I used to, if I ever did. And therefore, the obsession returns. And when the obsession returns, I drink again. And for me to drink is to die. So he went through all these great pains to tell me about the mental twist preceding the first drink. He went as far as telling me about the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it is the utter inability to stop, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. He went as far as telling me about the desire to stop is not in itself powerful enough to keep me stopped or make me okay in my own skin. It's necessary. It's a necessary element in getting through the work is to desire to be sober. Obviously, I want to quit for good and for all. But page 23, the bottom, going up to page 24 says, in the life of every alcoholic, he passed into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. And that this tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. And so there's so many different statements in there that tells me over and over again that I don't have the ability to just willpower myself into sobriety and be okay. I'll be miserable as hell. I am so dependent on alcohol and dope for a sense of ease and comfort that without dope, there is no ease and comfort. There is only restless, irritable, and discontentedness. And unless I can experience an entire psychic change, I'm stuck in the cycle. Page 43 at the bottom says, once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. Neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. He or any other human being can provide such a defense. Damn, it just blows me the fuck away that the shit's in writing and you never hear nothing like this in the middle of the road rooms. His defense must come from a higher power. All right. Now page 44. No, that's not it. Page 30. All right. So most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics and addicts. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking and using careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people or use like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking and using is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker and user. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. Next paragraph. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic and addict, that this is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we're like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. So, step one brought me all this information. And if I've been fearless and thorough from the very start, I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not like other people. I've come to terms with the fact that I'm a real alcoholic, a real addict, and there's absolutely no way to stop and stay stopped, and absolutely no way to use and control it. Not on my own strength, not by my own power, not by meeting make or make it, not by keep coming back. None of that shit is the spiritual program of action. Those are decent, positive suggestions that have their benefit, but they don't solve the problem. They don't solve the problem. They assist me if I've got the solution. They assist the solution. They are not the solution. So, step one, smashes home. Person concedes to his innermost self that he's alcoholic and he cannot manage his own life. That when he honestly wants to, he finds he can't. When he honestly wants to, he finds he can't give it up entirely. Or if when drinking or using, he has very little control of the amount he takes, then he's probably alcoholic, which means he may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience can conquer. With all the things said about step one, it's like bourgeois because they also go into talking about the message which can interest and hold these alcoholics must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideas must be grounded in the power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. That's William Silkworth, a psychiatrist, director over the leading hospital in America, specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction. Carl Jung in Europe, on the other side of the planet, a celebrated psychiatrist, says something very similar. He's never seen an alcoholic of our variety recover. Then Roland Hazard III asked him, is there any exceptions? He said, yes. Here and there, once in a while, throughout time, men have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these things are phenomenal. They seem to be in the form of large emotional upheavals, rearrangements, and da 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 da. He says, but I've been trying to instill some of these in you, but I've never been successful with an alcoholic of your variety. Clarifying that there's a breed of alcoholic and an addict that nothing works for apart from divine help. So we ease on into we agnostic, step two. And obviously, they do a lot of reasoning with the person who claims to be agnostic, saying there's no proof one way or the other, and the person who is so-called atheist says that they don't believe at all and they can prove God don't exist. And they reason with these people. But, let's get back down to the person who's low bottom, low level drunk and alcoholic and addict. We've tried everything already. We've tried everything. We've probably even to some degree tried God. We tried religion anyway. We never tried the program of action that would include cleaning house and repairing the past and praying and meditating and helping other people. We ain't tried that. We try to get in where we fit in, practice some religious rituals. We tried all kind of practice, rehearse prayers. We tried getting baptized like they was gonna wash the Dauphin off me or some shit. We tried all kind of shit, and for some small periods of time, there seemed to be some recovery, followed by still worse relapse. So in step two, it breaks down real simple because we get a pass here. We got a big problem with the God concept. We got big issues with it. We've been abused by religious people. We kind of get a pass. We've been told that we're completely fucked if we don't find God. And then we're told that God ain't that hard to find if we honestly want him. And then they ask one simple question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe in a power greater than myself? Now, so if I now believe, I'm on real solid ground. If I'm only willing to believe, I'm still on very shaky ground. Meaning, I continue trying to practice the principles of spiritual living without believing in God, only hoping that I find Him through the work. And it works out quite often for people who retain the idea that that's what they're doing this for, is to find their own spiritual experience. But if my willingness or my desire or want to find the power greater than myself really ain't there, and I'm just saying it so I can go on with the rest of the program, then I've drifted back into self-help. And what usually happens is I'll get a little bit of dry time, then I get so restless, irritable, and discontented that I have no choice but to go use. And then I'm mocked and ridiculed and scorned and humiliated, and I got to get back up and get a desire chip. And usually I can't even stand up 1-2 days of sobriety after a fall like that, because I really believe I worked the program. But I haven't. I have not worked a spiritual program action. Spiritual program action would include actively seeking conscious contact with a power greater than myself. There's no exceptions. There is no program that fucking works without seeking God. Bam, there it is. Fucking deal with it. But I'm able to move on from step 2 with simply having a desire or a willingness to believe. A want to is what willingness means there. I want to believe. I'm admitting that I don't, but I want to. It's all I got. Then we come up on step 3. And after all the long discussions about step 1, the disease of the mind and the body, strange mental blank spots, the loss of choice, the lack of power, all of this to finally concede to my innermost self that I am indeed a real alcoholic and addict. Bam. Step 3 comes in and tells me that alcohol is a symptom. Dope is a symptom. And that my problem is self. Self wants to be God. Self wants to run the show. Self wants to arrange life to suit himself. Self wants to run on self-propulsion. Self will use all kinds of things that look like virtue to continue pursuing the things he wants. Self is under a delusion. I'm psychotic about this idea that I can make myself happy. I can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if I manage well. Okay, hard concept to grab, because my whole ideas about success was based on getting things to go my way. Now I'm given a brand new conception of success if I don't miss it. It says the first requirement of step 3 is that I be convinced that any life run on self can hardly be a success, meaning any life run on self is going to fail. Maybe not externally as fast as it does internally. Point. Then, if indeed I have been fearless and thorough from the very start, once through step 3, I say the third step prayer, with complete abandon, I'm giving myself to this power. Even though I'm simply at this point just willing to believe, want to believe. I may not with conviction believe, but other people have presented themselves to me as in a saying, alive from the dead or back from the insanity, seeming to be stable and happy and at peace and content and helping other people. And I can't do nothing but acknowledge that if they just like me, knowing this unspoken language of the addict and the alcoholic, and they say God did it for them, maybe, just maybe, God will do it for me too. And so I launch out on a course of rigorous action to face and be rid of the things that's been blocking me from this power. That's my responsibility. That responsibility never goes away. It's echoed again in step 10, that it's up to me to tend to my spiritual condition and to continue to seek God and continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admitting it, and continue to pay attention for these certain things that'll crop up, right? But not to get too far ahead of ourselves. Okay, so after step 4, I'm going to do the 4 columns. 1, who the offense is at, principle, person, principle, or person, principle. Shit, my brain went blank. Let's back up. institution, person, principle, or institution with whom I'm offended. Column 2, I'm going to write what the exact reason is. Column 3, I'm going to say exactly how it affected me, right? Did it get in the way of my ambitions, my self-esteem, my personal relations, sex relations, pocketbook? Did it cause me fear? Uh, was there pride involved? I'm gonna dig deep, and then in the fourth column, I'm gonna set aside the wrongs others had done, and I'm gonna look only at my own self and what the fuck did I do to either start the ball rolling or keep some shit going, right? Then, with enough fearlessness, humility, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary, we tell someone else all our life story and we get into the details, the precise details as to how I showed up. This is one of them things that I can't do on my own. This is something that is a great benefit to have somebody who's been through the step work and give me some pointers on seeing myself. Help me see me as I am. Step 6 and step 7 does not say now that you know what's wrong with you, fix it. This is another place where it calls for a graduated degree of faith in the power greater than myself. I'm told in 6 and 7, after doing 4 and 5, that I'm become entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, and 7, humbly ask him to remove these shortcomings. A lot of times you hear people echo some shit like, I'm doing some work around and I'm working on it. Yeah, motherfucker, you'll be working on it your whole fucking life, since it's a thing that a man can't do. A man can't clean his own heart. A man can't fix his own self. There's absolutely no way to rehabilitate the old man. It's the new man that I'm trying to come into realization of. I'm trying to get convictions about what God could and would do if he was salt. And so I'm going back to God in 6 and 7, and I'm asking him to do the impossible, the humanly impossible God can do. 8 and 9. So I get the list out. Originally, it starts with the eighth. I got the 8th step. Made a list of all persons ever harmed, became willing to make amends to them all. I got it from the 4th step. I've also got it from the 3rd step when it made me aware of all the ways that I'm selfish and self-centered. All the ways that when I was not connected to a power greater than myself, that I was negatively affecting other people. And so I've got this list, and then step 9 with my sponsor, we're going to divide this list up into 3 sections, right? Make now, make later, and some of those things that I've done to other people, my desire to make amends is propelled by a guilty conscience. And I don't even consider that it would cause more harm or anything like that. And that's one of the main reasons why I need my sponsor to help me sort through my amends list before I start making amends. Now, step 10 is followed. Step 10 follows the 9th step promises. Now, this is a promise that these things will materialize if we work for them. If we work to restore a right relationship with God, if we work to clean the things that's been blocking me from him, if we work to make right the wrongs I've done in the past and straighten out the past, if I'm willing to practice a prayer and meditation life, if I am willing to get out of self and help other people, if I stuck close to him and perform his work well, he provides what I need. What I need is a spiritual experience. What I need is a spiritual awakening. What I need is a psychic change. I need God for these things. There's absolutely nothing in this world that satisfies me other than God himself. And until I've acquired this personal relationship with my creator, I am restless, irritable, and discontent, at least a little bit. And the problem with being restless, irritable, and discontented is that it crops, it grows, it enhances, it snowballs. So, finally making it to step 10. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Now, if at this point, going into step 10, you still don't have any kind of relationship with God, you missed the whole point of all the motherfucking steps. You missed it. You missed the whole fucking thing. As a matter of fact, what you've been doing is a self-help program that don't fucking work for real addicts and alcoholics. Because if you make it all the way to step 10, where it's all about maintaining conscious contact, where it's about nurturing this relationship, if it's about growing spiritually, it's about continuing to take a look at myself. It, if I made it this far, then and I still don't know anything about my relationship with God, I am doing some real bullshit work. It's trash. It's shallow. I've probably been half measuring. I probably held back some shit in my fifth step. I probably still retain some kind of fucking ideas of successful usage or controlling, or I just flat ass refuse to believe in God and just think it's a matter of willpower. One of them three. Or I ain't interested in making my amends. I have shied away from being thorough, uh, or some shit like that. Okay, so we've entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness by that spirit. I'm not gonna grow in understanding and effectiveness. I may grow in understanding, meaning I can learn the whole big book and be ineffective. I can learn the whole Bible and be ineffective. I can learn all the cliche shit that everybody says in the motherfucking rooms all the fucking time and be miserable in a motherfucker, ineffective, and not have shit to offer anybody that's in that bad place of active addiction because I'm not in the spirit. I'm not growing in understanding and effectiveness the way the book tells me I should by his spirit. I have not come to believe that God is doing for me what I can't do for myself. I probably continue working the steps and lost all intention on getting in touch with the power greater than myself, or I vaguely or shallow did some shallow ass working through the step work, and when I make it to the 10th step, I ain't doing shit. As a matter of fact, you can tell when a motherfucker has spiritual awakening or not by the way they do a 10th step. If a motherfucker do a 10th step, and his ass ain't connected, what he usually try to do is he try to use it as an opportunity to bitch about some shit he didn't like. He ain't interested in clearing away the shit that they cropped up. Let me see. Next function is growing understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. So I should continue to try to live for God, stay connected to the Spirit of God, be in fellowship with God for my lifetime. I've adopted this as a way of life. This ain't a one and done step either. This is continued, right? This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. These things right here, it says when these crop up, not if they crop up, when these things crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. So I'm paying attention to my spiritual condition, and when these things crop up, or when I sense that there's something blocking me off from the Spirit of God, because I should, by this time, come to know what it feels like to be spiritually fit or growing spiritually, and I should know what it feels like to be regressing or falling off on the spiritual program of action, which does indeed strongly imply be connected to God. So the first thing I'm going to do when these things crop up is I'm going to ask God to remove them at once. How many times you had to tell a sponsee, did you pray first? No, go pray. They ain't even fucking got it. They ain't got it. We keep missing this shit because the room's so motherfucking soft now. Everybody keeps pushing some bullshit that doesn't include God. You can get intelligent in a motherfucker and still be strung out. Don't let your big motherfucking brain fuck you. This is about spiritual health. If I straighten out spiritually, I straighten out mentally and physically. You strain every goddamn muscle you got trying to straighten out mentally, and I guarantee you it won't do a fucking thing for your spirit if the spirit ain't made healthy first. And so they give us some clear-cut instructions as how to have a spiritual experience rather than trying to depend on my spiritual beliefs. See, we've had a lot of spiritual beliefs, but after the 5th step, we begin to have a spiritual experience. If that's not your story, you miss something too. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. So give me some very specific things as to how to get back connected when selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear begin to block me from God again, and it'll happen. Life happens. Things are unexpected. Things scare me. Things piss me off. Things tempt me to tell a lie. I try my damnedest to live a rigorously honest life and stay completely transparent. But there's times where, I'm telling the story, and every time I tell the motherfucker, story getting better and better. It can't be getting better and better if it's the true story. It means it's a fucking lie. It's dishonesty. Selfishness. Selfishness is really sneaky because sometimes my selfishness will hide behind a good intention. My selfishness will hide behind some virtues. My selfishness will hide behind motives. My selfishness will hide behind the legitimacy of a thing. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with having sex, but there is a right way and a wrong way. Take that to the bank. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. There's a way that God okays, and there's a way that he doesn't okay and support. There's a way that sex is included in being part of somebody's solution and a strong member and pillar in their life. And there's a way that sex is creating problems for these people who I use my sex powers on. So there's another place where selfishness and self-centeredness will slide in and hide behind something that's legitimate. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. I know sometimes I am too disconnected and too disturbed to be working one-on-one with somebody. But this is one of them places to where it's maybe I should get active in carrying the message with the group. Maybe I should, lend an ear to somebody who's doing worse than me. Maybe I can get on the phone list for the hotline, or maybe there's a lot of ways to help others so that I can have some practical application to getting out of self. There's a lot of ways. And here comes the 10-step promises. Now watch this, because after you get through the 9th step, you're supposed to be recovered. You're supposed to have a personal relationship with God. You're supposed to now realize that God is doing for you what you can't do for yourself. You're supposed to be entering into the world of the spirit. You're supposed to be growing in understanding and effectiveness. You're supposed to practice daily, continuing to take personal inventory when wrong, properly admitting it. You're supposed to have been experiencing the 9th step promises to some degree and increasing. And now they're talking about the 10th step promises. And watch this. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. You still fighting? Yes, and recovered. For by this time, sanity will have returned. Sanity returning is by the time you get to step 10, through the work, through the intention on getting connected to a power greater than myself, I have finally secured my step 2. Because remember, we were able to keep going with simply being willing to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Now, by this time, sanity will have returned. I will seldom be interested in liquor or dope, and if tempted, we recoil from it as from a high flame. I'll give you an example of something. So if I haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, and I have not come to know my Creator personally, if I have not begun to have a psychic change personally, if I have not begun to experience some of these promises about peace, about serenity, about no longer being in self, if I haven't begun to experience these things, then I will not know what it looks like to be sane. I will still be experiencing restless, irritable, and discontentedness, which means I am still in the process of recovering, trying to get recovered. I'm not recovered if if par 90%, I'm at peace, I'm serene. Par 5%, there's days where I question how connected I am. And then there's only 5% of the time where I'm actually experiencing something that looks anything like restless, irritable, and discontented. That's a drastic crossover from existing in restless, irritable, discontent, fear, self-pity, shame, guilt, remorse, being powerless, and being miserable in my own skin. And every blue moon, I get a sense of ease and comfort by either having some lewd sexual behaviors or indulging in some drinking and drugging. Completely different stuff. And now I've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity has returned. So I've secured my step 2. We will seldom be interested in liquor, and if tempted, we recoil from it as from a high flame. So here it is. When I'm disconnected, when these things have cropped up, selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, and I haven't asked God to remove them, I haven't spoken to anyone about them at once, I haven't made amends quickly, and I haven't turned my attention to someone I can help, then I'm in the ism. And if I'm in the ism, when tempted, I don't recoil from it as from a hot flame. When I'm disconnected, temptation come in my head, the thought come, because they come and go. So, but when I'm disconnected, when the thought come in my head, that motherfucker stick. And I got to fight like hell now to get the thought out my head. But when I'm connected, I am practicing the spiritual program of action. I am seeking God's connection. I am seeking to be empowered by God. I am asking to remove these things at once. I'm doing those things. It's my responsibility spiritually. Then when the thought crossed my mind about indulging in some dope, alcohol, some lewd sexual behavior, it's absurd because the power of God is in me, and the power of God helps me recoil as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. Now, my sobriety at this particular point shouldn't require any thought or effort on my part because I'm connected to God, and my dependence and reliance is upon the power of God. My dependence and reliance is upon staying connected to God. It is not dependent upon the quantity of meetings I make. It is not dependent upon other people's spiritual health. It is dependent upon my own personal relationship with my Creator. And as a result of having a personal relationship with my Creator personally, as a result of that, the side effect is sobriety, contentment, serenity, peace of mind, the ability to deal with situations that used to baffle me. It said it just comes. It says, we will see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. The question is, if you made it to this point, are you still fighting temptation? Are you still fighting and trying to arrange life to be conducive to change? Are you still trying to make everybody around you stop drinking and doing dope? Have you become antagonistic to other people who still use, meaning judgmental and harsh? Do you still look down your nose? We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected, been placed there. I didn't go take a spot there. A spot there was given to me by my Creator. Instead, the problem has been removed. This is where God Himself is the solution to my problem. God Himself is the solution to my ism. He's the solution to my restless, irritable, and discontentedness. He's the solution to my spiritual malady. He is my peace. He is the reason why I'm okay. He is the reason why I do not have to fear tomorrow or grovel and be in self-pity about the past. He is the reason why I'm made able to, with poise, live in the now and be content. There is no human can give me that. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. Here we go. If I'm cocky, That's self-confidence, self-reliance, self-esteem. It's not the equivalent of being connected and reliant and dependent on God. If I'm afraid, it's because my heart knows the truth about my inability and my brain is still trying to rise to the occasion. But this spiritual experience should give me the ability to not be cocky or afraid. I should be able to rest in neutrality, safe and protected. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. If I keep in fit spiritual condition, this should be my experience as a recovered gentleman. And if this isn't my experience, then I should probably be trying to look for the potholes in my spiritual fences. 9 times out of 10, it's going to have something to do with my step one, something to do with my step two, something to do with my step three. It may have something to do with a bullshit ass fourth step. It might be a weak ass fifth step. Or after the fifth step, it might be self trying to impose its will to change rather than becoming willing to turn to God and willing to have them removed, and 7, humbly asking him to remove them. Or it may be that I have declared myself unwilling to make certain amends that me, God, my sponsor, or God and my sponsor has clearly made me realize that I've got to fix. Or being as selfish and self-centered and as self-will run riot as the alcoholic and the addict is, I have only intentions on enjoying my sobriety to myself. I do not give of myself, of my time, and of things that God has taught me through the work to other addicts and alcoholics. Therefore, I am stagnant, and the talents and the things that God has given me to share, I don't share them, which makes me in disobedience, which breaks my connection another kind of way. So we make it over here to page 85. It says, it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. That's the daily discipline of seeking God, and rest on our laurels. That's resting on what you feel like you've already accomplished, what you've already acquired, that you've already arrived. That's having faith and dependence in your fucking sobriety, Chip. Or your mentality about how fearless and thorough in pursuing God changes once you get the car, the job, the bank account, the girlfriend back. Then all of a sudden, you're no longer grateful, you're no longer desperate, you feel like you no longer need God or the program. And so it's a warning. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program action and rest on your laurels. Another tripped out part about it is it's easy to let up on pursuing a connection with God, is what it's saying. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe, and dope is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What is alcoholism? Alcoholism is a spiritual malady, for one. Let's start from the inside out. It's a spiritual malady that makes me restless, irritable, and discontented. Makes me have a need for a sense of ease and comfort. It makes me have a need for peace and tranquility that I don't have all by myself. Dope and alcohol has always been the substance that gave me that, right? And now I look to God for the solving of that spiritual malady. And so if I don't have God or a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience or psychic change, if I don't have this relationship, if I'm not intent on getting connected to him, if I don't rely and depend on him, then I will indeed rely and depend on some external thing to make me satisfied, to deal with my discontentedness, and nothing else can. That problem will never be solved. I will never be able to live life without God. I will never be okay without this connection. So my alcoholism is directly related to my need for God. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. When they say daily reprieve, it is in reference to like if you was on death row and they about to put your ass to sleep and the judge orders you a reprieve, a stay of execution. And the way alcohol and dope has been handling us, it's almost like a death sentence when we're not connected and we end up against our will, getting high again, it's definitely a death sentence. I'm the living dead at that time. So what we really have is a daily reprieve, and it's contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. It's contingent on how diligent I am continuing to seek my Creator, depend and rely on my Creator. It is contingent upon my daily disciplines of seeking God. It's contingent upon the spiritual program of action daily. Now it's going to talk about living in the now. Every day is a day. Today is a day when I must carry the vision of God's will into all of my activities, right? How can I best serve thee, God? That's the question I'm asking God along the way. Thy will, whatever you want, God, not my will, be done. Not what I want, God. Whatever you want, not what I want, God, be done. Show me how to do what it is that you want me to do, right? How can I best serve thee? These are thoughts which must go with us constantly throughout this day. We can exercise our willpower along these lines all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So the improper use of the will is when I am trying to pursue my good intentions by my own efforts and self-propulsion, and I personally and truly don't really give a damn about God's will. I think my good intentions, my best motives are good enough. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. There it is again. This is all about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. Have you begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into you? That's a yes or no question. Because at this point, by now, you should know. If at this point now you don't know, something has been lacking in your pursuit of getting connected to God. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. And that's step 10, man. Never do I do these things to offend anybody. I really don't. I truly have a heart that's interested in helping as many people as I can before I die and go be with my Creator. I really appreciate the opportunity that God has led me into to do such a thing. If you guys are being, helped by these videos, share them with somebody else you think would be helped or inspired or encouraged by them. Share them, subscribe, keep in contact with us. If you have any comments, I'm open to some comments. I'm open to some suggestions. If you have a topic pertaining to recovery, comment on one of the videos and I'll see it and I'll respond. I love y'all. It's been Real Raw and Recovered. I like my truth like I like my dope. Peace.